Hey, you gorgeous humans. Um, this is a new podcast episode, a bit of an update. Life has been so interesting, and it has channeled me into a place of deeply validating my lived experience, not just day to day, but moment to moment. And connection and integrity being two of my highest values ever, has meant that I can't force myself out. I cannot force myself to not be in pain. So I have had to step away from using marijuana as a form of pain relief. And what that looked like was this last month. Oh my gosh. This last month being so close to the physical pain that's in my body that I can't deny. And there's so much shame in, as a healer, as someone who has helped other people through their pain, there is an element of guilt and shame in not being able to immediately relieve the pain that I'm experiencing, or that my children experienced even. Like, I was able to be there, but each of them had to move through their own experience and validate their own experience in order to make decisions that were self-determined. And this self-determination is so deeply linked with our integrity. And what the physical pain looked like for me over this last month, even now, because I'm at the end of my menstrual week, but last week, it was Tuesday and Thursday today. Tuesday last week, I was in bed with what felt like, and it was only after, when I tried marijuana on the Saturday, that I realized that I like going back through the catalogue of all my lived experience, what feels the most similar to this, so that I can, I'm keeping track of my symptoms. And it felt like active labor. It felt like I was in active labor for like 7 days in bed, really only being able to survive. So knowing that I have, a solid 2 weeks out of the month where I'm fairly ineffective at moving my life forward, all of my energy is going to maintaining my life and preparing myself to bleed and experience that pain again, like I was when I was having children. So I would spend weeks before the baby came to prepare meals for myself so that there was less demands on me when this new human came. Because I knew I didn't feel safe in the community the communities that I was in, to ask for help because of how shamed I was for not being a superwoman. And I say this as someone who literally 4 days after they gave birth to their 4th child, they were doing the school run. I was in active church leadership, and I struggled to ask for help, and I would have been the first to help anyone. And I had so many demands on me, such like, I can validate so deeply my experience, and I can see how I'm literally at where I am now, the experience of pain and that active labor. I realized in a moment of relief, the one moment that the marijuana didn't affect me into vertigo, and I was able to go for a walk, just reflecting and going, this is like active labor. And then considering the metaphysical impacts of all of that and realizing I am birthing myself. I'm birthing my new identity last month. last month there were so many shifting energies, and I know that I was within my capacity to hold space for each of them for myself. And so much of the identity had to do with who I am when I am in my joy, and who feels safe to be around me when I am in my joyous state. And realizing that if people don't feel safe, like if people try and squash my joy or in some way are cynical of my joy, they are not safe people for me. They are not conducive to a healing environment for my body, because it's my body that is impacted by like my relational dynamics, and realizing that there's a spiritual and eternal nature to relationships, and that this is how like our relationship to our life is really reflected in our life experience, what we believe about ourselves, what we think is possible. And part of my joy is music. And it's not, I wouldn't even say it's performing, it's sharing it. So I was able to do my first open mic night a few weeks ago. And my intention was to suck so bad that I knew I could only get better. And I know that I'll probably have days that suck even more than that. But I had to do it 100% sober, and I did. And the community of support that was around me was just, I felt so loved in my imperfection. And as a 43-year-old human, going back and doing something that was my joy as like a 17, 18, 19-year-old in front of people, like I was trying to perform back then, and I realized the shaking of my voice and my nervousness, like this time around, like I was so nervous back when I was 19, like the last time I'd performed in front of someone, in front of an audience. And this time around, realizing that, oh my gosh, this is so not as scary as actually raising teenagers or even moving through the process of self-determination. And within integrity, there's this saying that's been coming into my mind over the last month, and that is seen and unseen. Who are we? Are we the same if we are seen or unseen? And that element of integrity is actually not abandoning ourselves within our life experience because we have this one life experience, and just how much distraction there is around, just how much noise there is around, that it's essential to create quietness and stillness and silence and space, not force the timing of anything. And that third eye experience showed me that I could not have forced my way there. It was a surrender to it. And there's so much humility that we learn in the surrender. So much humility that we learn in the surrender. And it's also where we find the homeostasis of our own flows, the cycles that we have. And this is relevant for those who don't bleed as well, because we have the moon that is able to, like when we sync with the moon, there's a different energy that we bring into the world, which is a slower energy, the 28-day cycle. And that's not just for women to follow, that is for humans to follow. The Gregorian calendar is new. The Gregorian calendar is a commercial calendar set on 24-hour sun cycles, which is aligned with the male hormone cycle, right? So fundamentally, we have forgotten this other cycle, which is also moving through us, which helps to balance a lot of the subtle energies that we interact with as humans. We can't deny those. It helps us tap into our inner tuition, right? The learning from the inside out, which has to be the case in some elements of self-determination, because another person's protocol or way of self-determination will not be the same as yours. You have a unique way in which you become the authority in your life, where it's an abdication of coercion. It's an abdication of making choices based on fear. And we might consciously think, oh yeah, I don't really make choices based on fear. But then when you start to analyze some of the quantum feedback, which is the lived experience, when we start to hold space for our personal lived experience, we realize that there's actually a lot of things that we're not validating, and therefore that we are leaking our own personal human resources. And those human resources are the senses, yes. So when our health declines, we start to notice the senses declining. And I know that our bodies can regenerate. And so much of it is programmed by our mind and our limited and our belief systems. And so it looks like having to continuously update your belief systems. And in a world which is focused on consumerism and getting more and productivity and efficiency, self-determined trajectory, if it doesn't happen immediately, it's like, what are you even doing? Are you lazy? Are you this? Are you that? Are you a fool? Right? And there's so much of that chatter that is actually coercive, which is counter to the self-determination. Self-determination is the coming from within. It is connecting to our source of life directly. And we see this like pathological defiance, of aversion or whatever, I can't even, demand aversion. Basically, I see more and more people struggling to be told what to do and allowing themselves their place and time to integrate based on their life experience. Creating accommodations for ourselves in life is basically what boundaries are. So when we start to create these accommodations, we can very easily attune to what is for us and what is not for us without the judgment of why it's not for us. Sometimes it's a simple abdication of, hey, don't have the energy, I don't have capacity for that. And being honest and true in that, surrendering to that, to the extent that there's might be other insights on the other side, but even if you never know why, you're not missing out, because you don't need to know everything. There is an element of chosen ignorance, which is healthy. And we are all living our own delusion. So realizing that we are all living our own delusion and that we cannot deny the physical happenings, because that's gaslighting, that's spiritual bypassing. The physical experience is spiritual. Our bodies are an instrument to attune to higher frequencies. And so we make a lot of that disrupted when we force ourselves to someone else's standards. It's not integrous. It's not connected. It's not self-determined. It's externally determined. And my body, when I had, my body would reject certain people, as leaders, as coaches, as healers. Oh, them nipples, they get no here. And even the idea of being a highly sexualized or valuing sexuality as much as I have, and realizing that it's actually that oxytocin hit that's like the biggest painkiller ever, which is why when I was in a relationship, it was so much easier to manage the pain, because I was able to go into, those delicious sexualities so much easier. And that's probably some healing for me to do there for myself. But when you are experiencing so much pain, the last thing you want to do is to be treated sexually. Because my experience has been that my sexuality has been valued over my humanity, and I'm coming back to the deep value of my humanity. And I love that. I love it for me so much. So I am the safest person in the entire world. I will say no if it's a no. And it's okay if you get offended. Because access to me, it's not like I'm most sacred human in the world. It's just, this is me and my life, and I live with me and my life every day. And so it just, for anyone to come into a space of intimacy is like, I will share what I want to share publicly, and I'm safe to share all my truth, obviously. And yet personal access to me is precious. And it's precious because my energy is precious. I am precious. I am so sensitive. My body, my mind, my heart, it's become so sensitive. And that's because of this focus on attunement. That's where I'm going to leave it tonight. I'm sending you so much love, and I believe in you and the determination of your own experience.